So now we are going to start looking at the syllabus. You can see this is syllabus part 1, so there's also a part 2 video. This one we're going to focus more on the assignments. So just keep that in mind. Please feel free to take a break between the two and everything. And so we go into the next slide. This is some random important information. My office hours are going to be Tuesday from 7 to 8 a.m. in the morning. This means just during that hour, I am literally going to be sitting at my computer, constantly refreshing my emails. I might be doing some grading and stuff during this time. And so that's going to be, if you have a quick question or you're like, oh my gosh, there's a test tomorrow and I had a question about, that's going to be the fastest way to catch me. Keep in mind, you can email me at any time of the day, and generally I will get back to you within 24 to 48 hours. But don't expect like, oh, if you email me at 3 in the morning, I'm not going to email you back until the next morning. You can see here my email, samantha.elkins@my.tccd.edu. Please, please, please make note of this. This is in your syllabus, but make note of it in a million places. At some point, you're going to want to email me. You want to have it on hand. The book is any version. You can see this once again in your syllabus, that this is America, a Narrative History, 11th edition. I have volume 1 put in parentheses because you don't have to get just volume 1. If you know you're going to take the first half of U.S. history and the second half of U.S. history, and for instance, if you know you're going to take them both with me, you could just get the complete edition, and the whole thing is volume 1 goes through chapter 16, which is Reconstruction, and that's what we'll go through in this class. Volume 2 should start at chapter 16, Reconstruction, which is actually the beginning of 1302. So just kind of keep that in mind. That's one reason I put any version. Some people they have the whole book. That should work as well. Some people like to buy it for their Kindle so they can have it on hand easier in that way. That's absolutely fine. I'm never gonna, I can't see if you get out your book and read and everything. So it's one of those things that if you wanted to, you could decide, I'm gonna go ahead and get the 10th edition instead of the 11th edition. I recommend getting the 11th edition, but it really is up to you. There's not a huge difference between the 10th and the 11th edition. Now, if you get like the 2nd edition compared to the 11th edition, obviously that's going to be a bigger difference and that's more of a risk, but that's up to you. So that's why I talk about any version here basically. Materials, you obviously will need a computer for this class and some sort of word processing program, mostly for like writing papers and a couple of the take-home sections on the quizzes. So you can see here that your required assignments, you have 3 papers that are worth 25% of your grade. The lowest paper is dropped. You have weekly quizzes that are worth 15% of your grade. The lowest quiz is dropped. Then you have 4 exams that are worth 50% and participation that is worth 10%. I'm going to go into all these assignments in just a second. On the right side, though, of your PowerPoint here, you can see the grade breakdown. An A is a 100 to 90, a B is an 89.99 to 80, so on and so forth. You can see all this. Notice it is really exactly defined. So if you got an 89.99 in this class, technically, that means you have a B in it, and I do not have to boot you up to an A. Will I boot you up to an A? Probably. But just kind of keep that in mind that this is how it is defined in the syllabus. So just be watching your grades when you're like looking at that interpretation. Just a quick note also here, D is considered passing by TCC standards. However, if you're looking to transfer this class to like a 4-year university or something like that afterwards, some universities don't take Ds. Some even make you retake the class if you get a C in it. So just like kind of keep those things in mind depending on where you're looking at going after this, or if you're having to keep this in mind for scholarships and things like that. So our 3 papers, they are already all posted in Blackboard, and you are going to turn them in through Blackboard Turnitin. You can see here that they're 500 to 600 words, so they're not really super long. The papers are due online. Please turn them into Blackboard Turnitin. You can see this on your assignment description exactly. However, if it's coming close to the wire on like, oh, it's due on this Wednesday or something like that, and it is 11:55, email me the paper and then upload it to Blackboard Turnitin. Sometimes Blackboard Turnitin takes a while or it has some technical issues and things like that. So That way, if you email it to me, I know it's not late. Please still go upload it to Blackboard, turn it in though, because you're going to get much better feedback. Now, let's say you didn't turn it in on time. The moment you've passed midnight, or actually 11:59, for every 24 hours it is late, there is a drop in letter grade. So if you turn it in, let's say at 3 in the morning, that is late, you are going to have minus 10 points on the grade. So if you know you're not going to get it in right at before midnight, keep in mind that as long as you get it in the next day before midnight, it's minus 10 points no matter what time of the day it is. So just keep that in mind. Also, use your rubric. I cannot repeat this enough. Oh my goodness, the rubric helps so much. So please, please, please use your rubric. The other thing about the papers is one is dropped. So papers are worth 25% of your grade. Because one of the 3 papers is dropped, each paper is actually worth 12.5% of your grade. Really, really important, don't skip paper 1. I have people that all the time go, oh, I'll do paper 2 and paper 3. Something will happen later in the semester. You're going to be tired. You won't have time to do paper 3. Do paper 1, do paper 2, and then do paper 3, depending on time and everything like that. I would honestly always recommend you do all 3 of them so it can drop the lowest grade, or in case of some sort of emergency happens right when paper 2 is due and everything. The other thing about this is the tentative due dates. If you go to the last couple pages of your syllabus, you'll see all the dates and schedules, and you'll see that on here things like the first paper, its tentative due date is Saturday, June 13th. However, this can be changed. The thing is, the end of this week is one of the first things that will be due this week will be a discussion board. And on that discussion board, one of the questions is, when do you want your 3 papers to be due? And so you can see I've given you 3 tentative due dates. If you like those due dates, you can literally post on that discussion board, I like your due dates. And the more people that vote for that means the more likely those papers will be due on those days. But if, let's say, you're like, you know what, Saturdays suck, I would much prefer Sundays. If you post in the discussion board, I want Sundays instead of Saturdays, or maybe Mondays, or maybe just the second one you want it to be on a Sunday or something like that, I'm basically going to be looking at majority rule here, and you guys can discuss as a class, when do you want your 3 papers to be due? Keep in mind, this discussion board is due by midnight this Friday, so literally by this Saturday, we will know when your 3 papers will be due. So just keep that in mind. Then we have quizzes. So there's actually 2 sections to all my quizzes. There's a time section. It works like you open it up. Literally, you're going to have a time limit. You answer the questions. Some of them are multiple choice. Some of them are short answers. And that is worth 80% of a quiz grade. There are no makeup quizzes because it's all online. And so for every 24 hours late, there's a drop in letter grade. So once again, if it was due by midnight on Wednesday, or for instance, we have actually, if you look on that schedule, quiz 1 is due tomorrow before midnight. And so if you didn't turn it in until Thursday, then it's minus 10 points. If you don't turn it until Friday, it's minus 20 points, and so on and so forth. So just kind of keep that in mind. One quiz, though, is dropped. So if you just totally drop the ball on a quiz, or you take the first quiz and you go, oh my gosh, I wasn't sure what to study for. It wasn't good. Keep in mind, one of these quizzes is dropped. As soon as there's 2 quizzes in the system, I'll go ahead and set up the system where it's dropping a quiz grade. I will, I'll send out an email or an announcement or something that says, hey, I've dropped the lowest quiz grade. The thing is, the system will not notify you what grade that is because it's going to be different for everyone, but the system automatically will drop the lowest quiz grade. What are the quizzes over? They're really over readings and class lecture. Tomorrow's quiz is predominantly over the syllabus, so kind of keep that in mind. Generally speaking, you don't have to write in complete sentences on quizzes. However, make it clear what you're saying. If you just tell me dogs is your answer, I might not understand what you're saying, whereas if you say, oh, more dogs did this. So Just kind of keep those things in mind. But that's only 80% of your quiz. What about the other 20%? The other 20% is a primary source section. Sometimes I call this the take-home section. If I call it the online section, I apologize for that. It's basically the not timed section. There's no time limit on this primary source section. It's just due separately. Think of it almost like as a separate assignment, but it combines with the quiz grade. And so that's how you get the full 100 points. Both sections of the quiz are due on the same day. So you can see how quiz 1 is set up for Wednesday, June 3rd. That is when both sections are due before midnight. Exams! There are 3 exams and 1 final exam that is comprehensive. Basically, same kind of thing. It's all going to be actually one timed big section. For every 24 hours late, you have a drop in letter grade, so you've seen this before. I will give you a review. In fact, there already should be reviews posted on Blackboard, so you can be looking at those. The layout of the exams is there's 15 multiple choice questions. They're worth 2 points each, so that's 30 points. There are 10 map IDs. These are worth 1 point each. And then there are 7 of 15 short answer questions. So basically what this means is I will give you 15 short answer questions. You have to choose 7 of them to answer, and each of them are worth 5 points, thus equaling 35 points. And then the last part is the essays. So on your review, you'll see 3 different essay options. On the test, there will be 2 essay options, and you must write 1 of them. You can see here the layout of like 4 points for the thesis, 10 points for the evidence, 7 points for organization, 2 points for spelling and punctuation, 2 points for sentence structure. I do give half points. I do give a lot of partial credit on these kinds of things, guys. So something is always better than nothing. If you're like, oh my gosh, I only have 5 minutes left of the test and I haven't written the essay, please, what I would recommend doing is going in and even writing a good opening paragraph, something like the thesis, and you indent the paragraphs and so on and so forth. We'll get more to this and I'll answer questions about it as the semester goes on, but just keep this in mind. And last, today we have our participation. This is basically, you have to be engaged in class through like discussion boards. You have to do 3 posts per week. They can't just be something like, I agree. Give me like 1 complete sentence, 1 full thought process kind of thing like that. Generally, I would recommend reading in advance. Generally, you'll see on my PowerPoints, it'll say what chapter is going along with it. If you have an excused absence, this will not be held against you, and that I'll let you make up the participation or it won't be considered late. However, if it's unexcused, every day late, drop in letter grade, 10 points off. You've seen this before. If you have any problems with class, please let me know. Attendance is going to be taken via when you last accessed Blackboard, so make sure you're accessing Blackboard on Mondays through Thursdays, because those are the days we take attendance for this class. Also, just a quick note, participation in the system, I do out of 10 points. It's really like if you get 10 out of 10 points, you've gotten 100 on the participation. I just put it in as a score with 10 points because participation is worth so much less than everything else. And I've had students confused in the past if I don't. So just kind of keep that in mind. Oh, 10 out of 10, you got a 100 on it. 5 out of 10, you got like a 50 on it. Last thing, extra credit. This is, of course, a question everyone always has. This is basically you can attend a TCC event. I know a lot of TCC events aren't going on right now, but there are a lot of virtual events going on. So please, if you attend one of those, make sure you fill out like surveys and things like that at the end to prove that you attended these events. The first one you do is +5 on an exam. The second one is +20 on a quiz. Third, +20 on a quiz, yada, yada, yada. So please be looking into these. Don't wait until literally the day before the final exam going, oh, what kind of event can I go to? Because most likely there won't be any at that point in time. I'll also post little things throughout the semester and give you like options for extra credit on this kind of thing. So just be watching out for that throughout this summer session.